Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Hello and welcome to the special two-part series of Mint Luxury Conference presented by Avendus in association with CNBC TV18, where we take you to meet the who's who of the luxury and style space, not just from India but around the globe.
The global luxury market is estimated to be worth $1.5 trillion. India accounts for just about 1 to 1.5% of this market, but is growing at a rapid pace. In its 8th year, the Mint Luxury Conference continues to lead conversations between Indian and global icons from the luxury space, with this year's theme being Luxury's New Frontiers. The event was flagged off on a powerful note with a conversation between the CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, and the editor of Mint, R. Sukumar.
One of the other big campaigns of this government has been the Make in India campaign. Is there a luxury component to that? Is there anything to either encourage global purveyors of luxury to come here and start manufacturing here, to start sourcing from here?
So one is that luxury actually is multi-dimensional in character. I mean, in Make in India we look at 25 sectors where we are focusing on. So luxury cuts across textiles, it cuts across jewelry, it cuts across, construction. Because to my mind, to enable good real estate play for available for branded products is very critical, and which is a huge challenge in India. In both Delhi and Mumbai, it's a huge challenge to get really outstanding real estate at low prices. But Make in India really cuts across the luxury segments in many ways. But one of the key things it cuts across is in terms of focusing on the foreign direct investment policy and making it very easy and simple and just opening it up in such large scale to allow single brands to come in. So two things we addressed is, one is how do you make single brands from abroad, make them easy for them to come in. And secondly, how do you allow Indian brands to grow and expand?
The next set of speakers were from different parts of the world and shared their thoughts on the importance of fashion in the luxury space, their journeys, as well as some of the changes that they are seeing in this field.
What is acceptable dressing for a rock star, and what's acceptable dressing or fashion for a movie star?
Well, I think if you're in rock and roll, you can be as idiosyncratic as you want. You're not really competing with anyone but yourself. You know, you can make your own clothes, you can wear vintage all you want, you can wear ripped vintage all you want. But in films, it's more, I'm of an age where I like looking pretty, and when you're sitting on stage going, like that, that's not about being pretty, that's about mojo. And so, you need a stylist, which is of it all. Everyone's fighting for the best dress. Everyone's looking at the same dresses going, I want that, I want that, I want that. Whoever's ahead of you on the A-list is going to get that, and that. But the dresses, it's a little like high school. It's more like prom dressing. You're not dressing idiosyncratic, you're dressing to look prissy.
I did not take a traditional route. Perhaps I was a rebel to go into pop culture, seen as I was exposed to a lot of art and film. I'm a college dropout. I actually don't, I'm sorry to say, don't sew. I do design. So I went a very untraditional route, and I found my way kind of intuitively, where I followed what I felt had reflected to me authentically. So, for instance, when I left art school, I moved to New York because that's where the energy was, and I started as an assistant working for stylists, and at the time there were and this was fashion stylists for editorial and traditional fashion. And then along the way, my luck would strike with Lenny Kravitz, went to high school with my friend's sister and needed a place to live while he recorded his first record.
Wow.
So this was my break in the late 80s, I guess. And through that experience, I learned about narrative filmmaking, working in music videos. There are two kinds of music videos. There's the performance videos where the artist looks beautiful and sings a song. And then there's the narrative video. I'm sure you're all aware it's the same in India as in the West. When the video tells a story, you know, and all of a sudden, the way that we present ourselves, it was like an epiphany for me, and it struck something in me about narrative, and that was the beginning of my journey.
They say that if you love someone or something so much and so purely, it gives you back everything in life. I think I've loved movies so much as a child. Like, I cried from films. I would see a film in the day and I would tell my mother, I love this movie, I want to see it again. And I don't like the color of your sari, why are you wearing this sari? And she would be like, what's up with you and movies? But she gave in and she would encourage it. She was not one of those mothers who held me back from films. So I grew up in Hindi films, very influenced by actresses, their clothes, 70s, I loved the 70s, I loved the 80s. 80s in fashion kind of lost its sense a bit in Indian cinema. And in the course of that, of course, I was a very, very bad student, terrible at studies. But I kind of had a lot of interest in color. So I started painting and sketching. And I think I only passed my science exams because I could draw well. And it came to college, and college was all about modeling, and I continued my passion for sketching. And I started working in a boutique as a sales boy, and I was so fascinated with clothes, I would dress the mannequin at least 10, 20 times, keep sketching. And I said, why don't I become a designer? And I applied in NIFT, which is the institute that had just started in the year 88. I was late for my application, and I don't have any experience. All I can do is sketch, and I love color, but I love movies. So why don't I look at movies? Because movies at that time were not so fashionable or so stylish in the early 90s, late 80s. So I thought to myself, if I can change Indian movies that I love so much, or change the styling, I'll be able to make a name. And with that vision, I got into films.
When you started off, it was a completely different world. I've read this that you've said in other interviews, you know, it was a completely different world that you were stepping into. So tell us a little bit about the challenges and what existed then and the way that it is now.
So yes, I started very young. I actually started working back home when I was 15, and it was a very different time. It was an exciting time, and you know, I didn't know really anything about fashion when I started, because I come from a really small town in the Czech Republic, and it was, you know, almost 17 years ago, so we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all the magazines accessible like everywhere else. We couldn't just look up photographers and fashion designers from all over the world. We kind of only knew what came to my country and what was available. So really, when I started traveling and came to New York and Italy, Milan with Miuccia Prada, that's really where I started. Through doing it every time, I've learned so much. I've learned so much about me. I've learned to embrace who I am and my body and being in front of camera, because growing up, I don't know how you were when you were 16, but you know, it was very long and very uncomfortable, uncoordinated, long legs, long arms. I didn't really, you know, I wasn't as comfortable and confident maybe as I am now that I'm older, and I think that comes really with experience.
As a photographer born a minute. Now with every cell phone having a camera, anybody who takes a picture and loads it on any kind of social media platform with X number of followers is suddenly, you know, the latest craze, the latest craze. So is this breeding mediocrity?
A lot of people now are allowed to do things they were not before.
Right.
Now, in general, this is a good thing. The positive thing is now everyone can express themselves and do things. Now, the problem with that, on the other hand, is we are completely, submerged by images. We don't even know where to look anymore, right? There's 5 devices, 9 apps, 20 social media, and I think it's changing the perception of people as well. So people are able to accept things more or are willing to accept things more, and therefore everything kind of goes. So yes, there are, you know, a lot of our profession is changing, but again, it's part of our time.
It's time for a short break, but on the other side, the style icons of the luxury world share their thoughts and enthrall the audience at the Mint Luxury Conference, presented by Avendis in association with CNBC TV 18. Stay tuned. Welcome back to this special episode of Mint Luxury Conference, presented by Avendis in association with CNBC TV 18. The world is evolving at a rapid pace, with local and global trends coming together like never before. So what do the designers have to say about the way forward?
For me, it's a void out there, because Donna did dress people in a way that I don't think anybody can and will ever replace what you've done.
Thank you, Fern.
But I do love Urban
Zen.
Zen.
Bodysuit and my passion
The
for
7
yoga.
easy pieces. Tell us about 7 easy pieces.
Well, it started with my passion for yoga. It was a bodysuit and a pair of tights, and I felt, well, what do you need over that? And it was a wrap and tie skirt. It was a scarf, and I love tailoring. My father was a tailor, and it was the one thing that I loved to do. So it was a combination of tailoring and wrapping jersey. I loved the body. I loved accenting the positive and deleting the negative as a woman, constantly facing a mirror and realizing that I wasn't one of the models. Understanding really what women were looking for at that time. And I realized, as a working woman, you know, I didn't have the time to constantly change. So what can I wear from day to evening? And that was very important. And I felt black was a wonderful color. I could never find enough fabrics in black. I love fabrication. I love the touch of it. I love the feel of it. It talks to me. And it was a very basic collection. I did not think it would take off.
Let's get the elephant in the room. No pun intended in India here. And let me ask you that question. What does luxury mean to you?
But luxury, to me, is the ultimate in quality, in terms of product. Personally, luxury to me is great space, especially in New York, living in New York City and having light. But in product, having the absolute best quality perfection that you can have is true luxury.
Calvin Klein, the name and the brand, has probably been the most recognizable name in fashion and beyond for close to 50 years. How do you feel about that?
I'm extremely proud. I never imagined that I could create a global brand before what we call social networking. And it's doable, but becoming global, becoming a brand that's globally recognized, I believe you have to have a vision. And you have to say something that's unique, special, and different from what everyone else is doing. If you're just doing the same thing or another version, you'll never make it.
We work with all kinds of companies like Puma, Swarovski. We work with Baccarat, Christofle, but also very democratic designs, so very mass market products. In what we do, we're very much culturally engaged. Design is a culture which is in the West based on, which in the West is based on a tradition of modernism, which is a tradition of minimalism and rationalism, technocratic ideas. Well, I think that the world is ready for a more humanistic approach, a less technocratic approach, a more romantic and a more human approach. So that is what we are building in all kinds of ways. We build the philosophy for it, and we build evidence for it in the designs we make.
I believe that business success comes from successfully combining opposites. And when you can do that, that's when you hit that J curve of success and profitability. And at Soneva, we combine luxury, sustainability, and wellness. So we're offering our guests luxuries whilst minimizing our impact on the planet and then whilst enhancing their health. In my opinion, the definition of luxury is something that's rare, something that you really yearn for and you cherish. And if you're getting it every day, you stop yearning for it. So it's something that's new, but true. It rings a chord in your heart when you touch it.
While a picture speaks 1,000 words, a brand speaks even more. In today's day and age, the media plays a major role in redefining the luxury market and in making a brand. The speakers at the luxury conference shared their views on these ideas.
How do you manage to retain your own identity, and don't you feel tedious about so many clothes thrown at you? Do you even like the clothes that you are given to wear?
You know, what you mentioned is you're seeing a lot of stylists come in the last few years, especially, I won't speak about, in the fashion world, but in the film industry, in the Hindi film industry here. Up until about even 3 years ago, we would not have stylists to go to film promotions, to go to film premieres, to go to any public appearances, as I'm sure you know. This is a new luxury. So I've been, maybe working about 11 or 12 years in the film industry. And the concept, so we have great designers, so I'm sure you've already interacted with Manish. So you have a Manish Malhotra who will design for our films, design for our songs, design for our stage shows, which are performances. But when we used to go to public appearances, we did not have stylists. So this is a fairly new phenomenon that we're seeing here, which is strange because it's a second or, depending on how you measure it, it's one of the largest film industries in the entire world. And yet so many people, there's so few stylists who are now just kind of making names for themselves, you could say.
When Shefali asked me to join this panel, this is the brief she gave me, and I'm going to read in quotes. We would like to focus on the fashion media's role in bringing issues of responsibility, climate change, sustainability, reinvention, etc. to the readers. Do you think the fashion press has been clear enough to point out the fine but clear differences between words like sustainability, ethical trade, eco-friendly, responsible fashion, as they all are a jumble at the moment? In my understanding, the essence of the brief was the responsibility of a lifestyle magazine editor in today's world, a world where sustainability is a growing preoccupation. And as I really sat down and thought about the question, I thought you can't exercise responsibility just by ticking boxes or by being politically correct. True responsibility comes only from conviction.
So are we going to spend some conscience in choosing our cover garments? Because we also have to be honest. I think, as you all professed, passion, person, commitment is about honesty, so it will translate, I'm assuming, into journalistic honesty. Which means when we do such an edition that says green issue, or we talk about sustainability, will we put a sustainable garment on the cover, or will we put Katrina Kaif in Dior?
So I think if you're a brand, if you're an individual, if you're a collective, if you're a company, because really even these divisions are breaking.
Yes.
If you are able to be authentic and say, this is who I am, and you can love me for who I am, or you can choose not to like me for who I am, that's your prerogative. But this is who I am. I think people respect those who are authentic. So I don't think everyone needs to be sustainable or use that. And I love air quoting, so I say sustainable for whatever that means. But I think you need to be, in today's world, you're curating people, and as media, I suppose you're curating things. People are also curating their own
feeds timeline.
And choices.
So you need
Yes.
you need to stand for something, whatever that something is. And I would argue it's no different in a relationship, in love, in families, at work. I mean, this is not rocket science.
The Indian luxury market has developed at a rapid pace in the last few years, but even then there is a huge potential for growth. Our next speaker shed light on some of the unknowns of the luxury market.
We did a study of close to 10,000 consumers across the world, about 500 consumers in India, and let's talk about one of the consumers that we met, Payal X from Delhi, whose first experience of luxury was about 20 years back, and it was in the form of a bag and a shoe. Over a period of time, it moved to different categories within apparel, outside apparel, but after a few years, it was not as much about owning, but about being. 2 years back, BCG was working with Alta Gamma to draw up a picture of the luxury market across the world. And we started off with laying out the different countries. And if you look at it, at that point of time, the fact that emerging markets are important, that China is important, was a given. If you look at the growth of the luxury market over the course of the last 5 years before 2013, close to 40% of that growth came from like-for-like, 60% came from retail expansion, 35% of that came from emerging markets, 25% from developed markets.
That's all that we have from this episode, but do tune in next time as we bring you exclusive interviews from the style icons of the luxury world. Until then, from our entire team, goodbye and thanks for watching.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.